Slow go on the honey flow. This is episode 103. Welcome to the Kiwimana Bay. Hi there, fatal mistakes, nest killer and arse busting.
Arse busting?
Yes, are you allowed to say arse?
Well, it's kind of the name of a donkey, so we can. It's a. Well, you kids out there,
I thought that was
arse is a donkey. Anyway, we're having technical troubles tonight, but we're here live from the hills of West Auckland as we come into the evening where it's cooled down. It's been a very sunny day. I think I got a bit of sunstroke out there in the apiary. It's been hot. I've been sitting in the shed making frames.
Yeah, she's been on one.
And this is episode 103 of our Beekeeping podcast. And special thanks this week to me, Drinker Tyson, all the way from Virginia, USA. And he's been supporting the Kiwimana Buzz for over 4 months. Thanks for your support, Tyson.
Yeah, awesomeness.
And speaking of Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia. Smell my ass.
Oh, that's a great movie. Great movie.
And check out Tyson's podcast at meadmaker.com, and that's MEADMAKR, but we'll have the links in the show notes, and the show notes are kiwi.bz/103. If you value what we do, please consider supporting the Kiwimana Buzz at kiwi.bz/banana.
Okay, hi, it's Gary and Margaret here. I'm Margaret.
And I'm Gary.
And we are beekeepers from the hills of the Waitakere Ranges on the wild west coast of Auckland, New Zealand. So welcome, guys. And our podcast is all about beekeeping, gardening, and a bit of politics about environmental issues. And sometimes we've been known to go off in tangents about other issues. But we've been pretty calm lately, haven't we?
Very calm. It's coming into autumn.
Yes,
the leaves haven't really started falling, or in some European trees they have.
Yeah, I've noticed some of the elm trees, the English elms, are getting a changing colour from bright green.
And that oak tree in Kumu fell so much it disappeared.
Yes, that's a travesty, and I think the council should be ashamed.
Yes, a local tree was chopped down. We don't know why. Terrible. Anyway, we shall move on. Big shout out to our listeners in Utah, United States of America this month. And did you know their state symbol is a beehive, which symbolises thrift and industry?
Nothing like a hive of industry.
This is true. Busy as a bee and all that. So thanks for listening, guys. We know life is busy. And I guess everyone's getting ready for spring in America and winding down for autumn in New Zealand. So we appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Yeah, well, that is true. At the moment, they're coming into spring, so I hope you guys got all your woodware and all your frames and everything set up, and you got your bees coming, and that those of you keep your bees every season. Good on ya, that's what I say. Yeah, awesome. So, we wish you guys all the best as we come to our autumn. And okay, so what's happening at Kiwimana, Gary?
Well, the Patreon results survey is in. We talked about this in 101, and it was the next goal for our Patreon supporters. So we have a Patreon account where people support the Kiwimana Buzz, and we have goals. So when we reach a certain amount of contributions, we do things. Like the first goal we've reached was to have 2 shows a month, and the second goal we either chose it was going to be transcriptions for our interviews.
What's that mean?
It means that we get someone transcribes what the interviewer said and writes it on in a Word document, and people can download it.
So they transcribe it into a Word document?
Yeah, or some kind of document so people can read it.
Awesome. Or
the other option was make a smartphone, so make it easy to listen to the show. This is a smartphone that would work on an Android or an Apple phone. Cool,
yeah. And what were the results?
Well, 67% said they want the smartphone and 33% want the transcriptions.
Okay, so it's clear that you want to have a smartphone application.
Yeah, pretty clear. So that's our next goal. So we're $3 per month away from that. So if you guys can help us out, that'd be awesome. Check it out on kiwi.bz/banana. That'd be awesome.
That's great. And what else has been going on?
Well, there's a new beekeeping podcast in the world. It's called the Beehive Jive, all the way from London, or South London, actually.
jive. I mean, are they rocking around the apiary or what's
happening? They're dancing in their bee suits.
That's what you got to do, man. You got to dance in your bee suit.
Anyway, we've updated the beekeeping list, the famous list of podcasts with all the top podcasts, and that is at kiwi.bz/top pods, and you can see there, you can see the Beehive Jive, you can see the Great Beekeepers Corner from Kevin, and you can also see another new one called the Be Smart podcast that we talked about in the last podcast.
Excellent. So good on you, Gary, for doing that for our listeners. They'll be pleased to have lots of entertaining stuff coming on board. So you have been pretty busy, haven't you?
I have, behind the scenes, working away, beavering away.
I won't tell the joke again.
No, don't.
Okay. Well, what else is
Well, we had a great article written from Aaron from Jennings Apiaries. It was how to make money and still be treatment free. This was quite popular, and we had a lot of comments on it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, and it's great to see it. And we've talked about treatment-free beekeeping, and there's a lot of controversy all round with it. But this is a really great article. It could save you money while you're saving the bees, guys.
Absolutely. So check that out. And if you want to be a guest blog poster or article writer, you check out kiwi.bz/write, and we can get your information out there.
Yeah, and with that, what have you put together?
There's a very extensive article there about how to write for us and how to set up your account.
The new feature you were talking about, I was wondering how that's going.
Oh, the new feature.
Yeah, gosh, get with the program, Gary.
Sorry.
It's a dozy Sunday afternoon,
It is.
isn't it?
It's been hot. I've melted away. The new feature, we have a new feature we just got on the blog just a couple of days ago. You can now subscribe to the comments and blog posts, so you can keep up to what's happening with those hot articles and see what people are saying. So never miss a comment, eh, Margaret?
That's it. I mean, there's good stuff out there that keeps us on our toes, and we love all that feedback. And I know that our blog writers are going to love hearing from you guys. So, yeah, check it out.
Absolutely. And it's autumn here and things are winding down.
Well, I think not. It feels like summer has finally arrived in New Zealand, and the bees are going...
Banana!
Yeah, they're going bananas out there. Yeah, it's great. It really is good, and pleased to see it. But it's been a slow season, and we talk about that a bit further on, eh?
Indeed. So what have you been up to?
Well, further to your comments, Gary, it's thanks to donations that we have our education apiary up and running, and you know who you are, Aaron, and that's been so awesome. And, maybe you'd like to make a one-off donation. It's easy to do on our website. There's a donation button there, and, PayPal or however you want to put that through, you can make just a one-off donation, which is always gladly received. So, makes a lot of things possible.
And I hear you've been extracting.
Yeah, I made a bucket extraction unit out of 2 buckets. The bottom bucket has a honey gate in it, which is like a tap for the honey to go through. And the top bucket, I put a hole in the bottom and put some mesh, some stainless steel mesh, which is a bit wider, and also a finer insect mesh underneath it, just to keep it all contained. And we crushed and strained 15 frames of full depths into there, and we're just leaving it to flow. So hopefully, we'll have the result of how many jars we get done in the next couple of weeks. So, so we have 10 frames for each of the colonies that we were working on at that beginners. So now they start off with a 2-box hive. Now they've got 2 colonies that are 4 boxes high. We've got enough honey for each of the colonies, 10 each, and we've also got a late split that we did because the queen was raising more queen cells, so we decided to split that off because they were so keen, and they're doing really, really well.
And this is a customer site? Because you didn't say. Yeah.
Yeah, I said it was a beginner's.
I was going to say, because I wouldn't mind some honey.
Yeah. Well, I've asked for one, and interestingly, when we took the first lot off, we just did a practice run, and the honey was white. So that just made me think of a floral clover honey or something. So I'll be very interested to see what this latest lot, whether it stays white or what colour it ends up, because our honey that we have is really dark, eh?
Yeah, we're kind of more bush honey, but they're more suburbia, aren't they? So they probably get a lot of exotic trees and stuff.
So, yeah, I can't wait to taste it. They're going to get it tested first, so just to make sure that they're not in the Tootin area. So we just want to make sure before we eat the honey that we get that done. So, yeah, it's pretty cool what's going on at that apiary for the beginner, and we've had a lot of fun doing that work. So now they end up with 3 colonies, and they all seem to be doing really well.
Fantastic. And today you braved the sun and went out and did the bees here?
Oh, yeah, I haven't been that well, but before I say that, I'd just like to say thank you for all your well wishes, and I am on the improve. So cheers, guys, and thanks for those phone messages and emails and everything. So yeah, cheers for that. And yes, I braved the 7-frame colony today at KM103 HQ. It's something I've been working on this season. I haven't interfered with them too much, and they are now 6 boxes high, which is pretty awesome. So there's 7 frames in each box, and they're full depth Hoffman frames. And yeah, she's doing well. Saw the queen, she's laying, she's wonderful. And then I went and had a look at the top bar, and she's got heaps of brood, but she hasn't got a lot of honey, which is capped. So it's mostly nectar. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with them, but we have got spare supplies if they need it. So they're looking both really good. And guess what?
What?
No signs of varroa.
That's fantastic.
I'm so thrilled.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because they've got only 7 frames. They're a lot more compacted.
Could be, but the top bar hasn't got any evidence of varroa either.
And when you say evidence, do you mean you've done a count, or you just didn't see any varroa mites?
Yeah, the way I do my inspections is I check the cells. So I check that the cells are nice and healthy, larvae inside, they're well formed, the bees are well formed, and so I check that the cells are good, that the bees are well formed. I check out the front of the hive, and I make sure that they are not throwing out lots of dead things. I didn't see a lot of drones in either of them, so that was interesting too. Yeah, because one's a solid bottom board, the 7-frame nuke, so the only way really would be to do a sugar shake on those.
You can't really call it a nuke, can you? It's 7 floors high. Yeah.
It's too big now. It's definitely a full working colony. I mean, if that was the same as a Langstrath, that would be 6 7s of 42, so that would be about 4 boxes high.
Yeah, true.
So that's about right for this time of the year.
And you put a photo on Instagram, didn't you, with the stepladder?
Yeah, you took the photo. I was too busy on the stepladder.
And we've also got a movie. We'll try and get that on the Instagram as well.
Yeah, enjoy, guys.
And if we get it on before we release this, we'll put a link there for you.
Yeah, cheers. Okay, and yes, we went to the education apiary. That's Lisa came and helped me again. And the treatments are now finished. So we've done 4 treatments once a week. And now we're waiting about 7 days before checking the results of the mite fall. So very happy that Lisa came and helped me. It was great to have that support. Yeah, cheers, Lisa, for the lunch. So
yes,
wonderful.
Thanks, Lisa. It was awesome to catch up and have lunch and eat cake, and as we like to do. So
as we love to do.
And talk about war stories. It was awesome. Yeah.
Our days out in the field as a sun shines and beats down on our furrowed brows.
Absolutely. Oh. Yes, that's right. Blog recap. Here's the top 3 blog posts from last month. First one was Happy 2017 from us to you. This was our episode 101.
Awesome. Yeah, that was great, guys. Thanks for your feedback on that one, and we'll read you what people are saying.
Absolutely. And the next popular podcast was Saving the Bees in Australia with Simon Mulvaney.
Yeah, there was some interesting points that he made about food labelling, and I'm actually, I think we should be doing that here in New Zealand with all our food.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And the third one was a guest blog post from Laura. So, do you know how bees make honey?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Interesting.
It was a good post. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a lot of talk about that because, you know, how do bees make honey? So check that one out, guys, if you haven't already.
That's right. And we've got some feedback on episode 101. A guy from Lyle Kens in Utah. You guys are the best.
Awesome. He says that he had a hive killed off by wasps this year. They had an early frost, and while the temperatures were low, not low enough that the wasps were also confined to their nests, eventually the losses were too much for the hive. So he says he won't make that mistake to put a hive in the shade again. It seems they get out much later than others and stay in on days when the sun is hot, but the shade is too cool. Is he talking about the wasps?
Yeah, I think so. I know we have the same thing here, because the wasps, they're more active later in the season than the bees are starting to calm down.
Yeah, it's like about this time, in autumn, the wasps are starting to really, come into their own. But we've actually not had too much of that problem here, have we?
No, I think they've been very quiet this year. I know that at the education apiary, I've seen a few.
Oh, yeah, definitely over there. But they've all got quite big colonies, so they're giving them the bash.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so, Lyle might find our robbing screens helpful.
Absolutely. He could look at making some of theirs or buying them from us. And we've done field tests over the last couple of seasons, and they're ending up it's a great product. Yeah,
we did a couple of seasons before we released them to see what would the best model, So we've modified it a few times to make it really work. And, it seems to be good with the very fine mesh. So that's working really well. And just check out our product page, guys, if you want to have a look at that. And if you scroll down on the product page, you'll see there's articles about that product. So,
Absolutely.
It's helpful. Sorry to interrupt you, but they are helpful against robbing bees as well. So that's a very handy hint.
That's why they're all kind of robbing, not just bees and not just wasps, both.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, and if you want to leave feedback on this show, the URL is kiwi.bz/103, and now you can also subscribe to comments, can't you?
Oh, fantastic, Gary. Well done, you.
Beekeeping news. News you can use.
And never abuse.
No. Speaking of abuse, 2.5 cubic metre wasp nest found in Southland.
Wow, that's humongous. How much is in that in feet? Is that like 3, 6, 7, 8 feet?
I don't understand feet. I've only got 2.
8 feet.
Could be. It's pretty
Something
big.
Something like that.
It's a big
That's
wasp
pretty
nest.
Massive.
And the guy that found it was Jeff Scott, and he was one of our swarm collectors. So I wonder if he got the call from our swarm list, hopefully.
Oh, okay, that's down in the South Island of New Zealand, and he did get more than what he was expecting. When he came across a huge wasp, or what you call it over in the States, is a yellow jacket nest, and it sounds like it's been a good season for wasps down there.
Absolutely, and the quote from the article is, a wasp nest measuring an astounding 2.75 cubic metres has been removed from a property just outside of Invercargill. Thinking of Invercargill, we were down there once and someone threw a jumper at us.
Yeah, it was great.
It wasn't a yellow jacket, it was a jumper.
That was just as we were walking down the street, but there you go.
We're trying to find somewhere to eat, weren't we?
We
only found one place. It was McDonald's. It was cold, but wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't the best.
Well, it was good they threw a jumper at us.
Indeed.
Anyway, we had some great feedback from this. Deborah Shaw, what does she say?
So Jeff Scott is actually on our swarm list, isn't he? And he actually states on there that he will collect any swarm in or out of buildings, bees, etc. So also wasp nest destruction removal. So, yeah, if you need something removed from down there in Invercargill,
give Jeff a call.
Did you like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Give Jeff a call. His number's there.
Yep, and we have some feedback. Deborah Shaw.
Well, that would have been interesting, she says. Found another yesterday down the drain. They are everywhere at the moment. Thanks, Deborah. That's amazing. It must be an unused drain or something, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's because of the dry weather. As soon as the water comes, hopefully they drown.
Hopefully. And Nicole McTaggart says...
Wowzers. Yeah, that can be very painful, those stings from a wasp nest. Because they keep stinging, eh?
They do.
Repeatedly.
Multiple stings. And Helen Beveridge says...
Holy moly. Girl of my own heart, Helen. So cool. And what does Vanessa say?
Vanessa Rotehiko. Good stuff. Yep, get rid of them all. Lots of laughs.
Yeah, good on ya. So thanks, Deborah, Nicole, Helen and Vanessa for giving us your feedback. We appreciate you taking time. So that's awesome.
Awesome. And to help with your wasp problems, here is the next article.
Okay, it says, The Weapon to Wipe Out Wasps, the story of Vespex.
Yes, this is the story behind a new insecticide that has been used to control wasps or yellow jackets in New Zealand. We haven't tried it yet, have we? But I've got the license for it, but we haven't bought any yet, have we?
Yeah, Gary's done the test that you can do online, and yeah, we haven't actually bought the product yet, but know of some of our beginners that have bought it, and so we're just interested to see how they go.
Yeah, I don't think at the moment we've got enough wasps to justify it, have we?
Yeah, it's been a very good season in terms of no wasps, but I think we've got, robbing screens on everything, so that may be a factor. It helps. It's helpful anyway. Absolutely.
And the quote from the article is, the most effective method of wasp control to date took close to 15 years to be approved for public use. Jonathan Carson tells the story of Vespex as part of the Wasp Wipeout project. And this article's got a really good video about the thing. And here's the intro to the article from the inventor, Richard Toft.
So traditional control of wasps has involved actually finding their nests and then putting an insecticide down the entrance that the wasps drag into the nest. But with Vespex, you don't have to do that anymore. So it's the first tool that's really enabled wide area control of wasps.
Absolutely. So you can check that out, but there's a full video, as I said before, so check that out in the show notes. But the active ingredient of Vespex is fipronil. And we did a bit of research, didn't we?
Yeah, Gary's been doing some good work on the old Google interwebbies.
And it's a slow-acting insecticide that causes central nervous system toxicity. And this is the active ingredient in Frontline Top Spot, which is a flea stuff.
Flea killer, yep.
And it causes hyper-excitation of contaminated insects, which means their nerves and muscles start twitching.
Hyper-excitation of contaminated insects' nerves and muscles. Oh, that
sounds painful. And it's highly toxic to bees, by the way. And this is the main chemical that's been blamed for the causes of colony collapse disorder in France.
Oh, that's an interesting fact.
And even at low levels, it's toxic to bees and fish. And in 2003, the French Director General of Food at the Ministry of Agriculture determined that a case of mass bee mortality observed in the southern France was related to acute fipronil toxicity, because they used to use it for seed treatments, the fipronil.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Crikey, that's pretty bad.
Which generated dust. And in 2003, the ministry decided to temporarily suspend the sale of the BASF crop protection products, including fipronil, in France.
Okay.
So it's, it might be great for wasps, but it's not good for bees. But I mean, the thing is, the way they do it, the Vespex, it's in a protein-based bait. Bees aren't attracted to it. But I just think my only concern is you've got to make sure you've got to dispose of this correctly. Don't want to throw it in a landfill because it is toxic to fish.
Yeah.
And also toxic to bees. So be very careful, guys, when you get rid of it. Don't just throw it in the rubbish bin.
Well, hopefully the wasp will eat it all up.
Well, that's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the dream. So you don't, but it comes in quite a large quantity, which I think that they should reconsider.
Yes, and there's an article on our show notes from Wikipedia about fipronil, so you can do some more research yourself. But just be very careful, guys, because it is a registered insecticide. Yeah,
and the other interesting thing about this article, he talks about how they considered all different options, and he mentioned 1080 as well. So a lot of things have moved on since those kind of chemicals are used, but in New Zealand they still use 1080 for possum work. But he said that he talks about how they use it and the quantities and everything, but it wasn't effective enough. So it shows you how bad wasps are, really.
Yes, absolutely. And we got some feedback from Langford Parton. Hey, Langford.
Hey, yeah, g'day.
He says, just use A&W root beer in a 2-litre bottle, cut the top off and staple it inverted down. Oh, that's like the ones we make. But A&W root beer, I think, is that a ginger beer, Langford? You'll have to tell us. We don't get that in New Zealand.
Yeah, I don't know. And just inverted down in the other part, fill about 2 inches of the root beer and set it in your bee yard. It's non-toxic to honeybees, and they ignore it.
I wonder if we could try ginger beer. We'll do an experiment, eh? We'll try that. But as I said, we've got not many wasps at the moment, so
I think it'll be a failure in that context. I mean, my thought's always been that the best way to get rid of wasps is to find their nests. But then with this Vespex stuff, you don't have to find the nest because the wasp will go back home anyway, so you don't have to worry.
Yeah, because it's a slow-acting insecticide, they eat it and then they take it back to the nest, and apparently the other wasps either eat them or as they're dragging the dead bodies out, they become infected too or affected by it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, read that article, guys. It's really interesting, and maybe you want to take up the Vespex side of things. So all the best with it, guys, and enjoy that one.
Absolutely. And the next story is a very painful story about a young beekeeper busting his arse to get where he is today.
Crikey, are we allowed to say all that?
Yeah. Well, that's what was in the article in the Herald.
I see. So it was actually in the main paper, so that's all right. But it sounds painful.
Yeah, and it sounds painful, I agree. And this is a story of a hard-working young business owner from North Canterbury in the South Island of New Zealand. And it's an inspirational story about not giving up on your dream and focusing on what you need to do to get there.
Awesome.
That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the guy's called James Malcolm, and he has lived this life for a decade. But the graft and commitment has paid off. At 28, he owns Natural New Zealand Honey Limited, a beekeeping operation tucked under the tussock and beach-covered foothills of North Canterbury with 3,500 hives, a beekeeping HQ, and 16 full-time staff.
Absolutely, and this article's got a great video of James and him talking, and we'll just play a little excerpt of that. This is where he discusses how his bee season went. Let's listen to that.
This season's been pretty poor. For us, we're roughly about 70% back. So the take is going to be 30% of typically of what we would expect, and that's more so on an average basis than anything that's glorified or all the larger seasons we've had in the past. We've had enough moisture, but the problem is it hasn't stopped raining, and for plants to yield nectar, they need heat units. So there just has not been enough heat this summer, or consistency in the weather as well. I mean, it takes roughly 3 days for flowers to start yielding nectar, and then we ultimately we need a week of nice weather at a time, or multiple weeks would be dream result from that point onwards. But the best we've had is probably 3-4 days.
Yeah, dream result, eh?
Oh, I reckon. And we're talking more about that later on. It's been a very bad season.
Yeah. He also talks in this article about labelling, and I think that's a really common thread with things that are going on in the honey industry and the food industry about labelling and, really being proud of the products we're putting out there and claiming it and owning it, as all countries should do. Claim their local honey and make it real and stop importing all this other stuff, man.
Well, we're very lucky here that we don't import honey. If you listen to the Simon Mulvaney podcast, we're very lucky. All the troubles they're having in Australia at the moment, it's shocking.
Yeah, and I just encourage our government and MPI to just really stay strong in that, because we have got an awesome product here. And, when we have seasons like this where it's not as productive as it could be because of the weather, it makes you realise just how perfect and wonderful that product is, and it is something we have to look after.
Yes, indeed. And we've got some great feedback from Stacey Johnson.
Okay, she says, great article, and yes, they look like full-depth hives. Bugger that. Another beak sending it all overseas.
Yes, absolutely. And Craig Lavelle says, good on him. I hope he's not going to bust his back along with his arse. Yes, good point, Craig.
Good point, Craig.
You've got to watch your back, be careful with it. And we joked before he should get a 500 lifestyle hives.
Yeah, no, 1,500 lives.
1,500.
Kiwi lifestylers, man. That'll make his life a lot better.
Keep his back in good use, good operation. But he's got employees, so they'll be doing that, won't they?
Yeah, so, I think it's true. Stacey mentions about, our stuff going overseas. Well, I hope that when it does go overseas, that it's truly kept as a pure product, Yes,
absolutely. And speaking of business, 3 fatal mistakes to avoid when starting a new bee business. This is from Karen at Business of Bees, or Biz of Bees on Twitter. She talks about the top 3 business mistakes for a beekeeping business, but I reckon these could apply to any business, couldn't they?
Hey, I just want to say thanks to Stacey and Craig for their comments.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, guys, we forgot to mention that, but thanks so much. And, the fatal mistakes. 3 of them only? The quote from the article is, you've decided that there is money to be made in the manuka industry. You've done the research on the interwebs and found a wealth of useful information. It all looks like a dream run. Hey, that leads on from that last article, eh?
Yeah.
Anyway, what could go wrong?
The mistakes are trying to do everything at once. Oh, I totally agree with that. Or trying to do everything yourself as well. Hey, I think she sort of talks about that too.
Yeah, and not allowing for the weather, because as James was saying in his, in that article, is that the weather, people don't take enough notice about the weather when they're beekeepers. They have to learn that the weather is very much part of...
Oh, I think they learn it pretty quickly, because if the weather's not very good, the honey production isn't good either. And I think a lot of beekeepers this season are going to realise that, and we talk about that further, don't we?
Indeed we do.
So stay tuned in.
So not allowing for the weather's number 2, and what's number 3, Gary?
Using the wrong numbers. This is like using the wrong numbers to calculate your profits and stuff like that, or using the wrong data, I suppose you could say. So if you think you're maybe over-optimistic that you're going to make millions of dollars.
Yeah. I think one of the things is that you need to keep good records as well in terms of how you're managing the hives and what it's costing you to manage those hives, because I think that's one area where you can it could go out of control, especially if you're paying staff or you're taking a lot of time to do the work and you're not calculating enough.
Yeah, and I think a lot of businesses, they tend to be working in the business and not on it. You know what I mean? They're not like marketing it and stuff. They're just in it all the time doing stuff. And
okay, well, it's a good article, eh?
It's a good article,
yeah.
And if you're on the Twitters, look up Karen on Biz of Bees, and follow her and say you saw her on Kiwi Mana.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And
thanks, Karen, for your article.
Indeed. And the other thing is, you have to have good balance. Balance your books.
Yes, absolutely. Can't spend too much.
Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, there you go. So the next article says, beekeepers say honey season is the worst in 20 years in New Zealand.
Yes, no surprise to any beekeeper in New Zealand, but the constant rain and wind at the beginning of spring has led to a terrible honey season so far.
It's been good for wasps, but not good for, the death of wasps, which is great. But, the article says some frustrated beekeepers have now declared our dismal summer the worst in 2 decades for honey making. But it's still too early to say whether consumers will also feel a sting.
Well, they may do. There may be a shortage of honey, but that's no excuse to import honey, everyone. We'll just do without.
No excuse. It makes our product all the more valuable.
Absolutely. And even Comvita, which is the biggest honey packer in New Zealand, they're blaming the bad honey crop for a 7.1 million half-year loss. That's a lot of millions.
It's a lot of millions. And I guess the bees are probably a bit pissed off too because they haven't got enough food. So let's not worry about the bees. Let's just worry about what we want.
Well, I've noticed a few of my hives are very low in feed, so I'm going to have to start feeding probably, or give them some honey from our disease-free hive guide. Don't just feed honey from the supermarket, whatever you do. But yeah, if you've got no feed, sugar syrup is the way to go. That's hot water and sugar.
I tend to encourage people not to take honey off if they are really in the business of keeping healthy bees.
Oh, absolutely.
Seriously, we've got plenty of honey frames there, so that's what we'll be using.
Yes, indeed. So check that article out. It's a sad story for beekeepers in New Zealand. Let's hope that next season's not as bad as this one, or we might see a few people getting out of the industry, eh?
Yeah, I think there is talk about the kind of investment. A lot of people who have come to the industry who may be suffering from this, but I guess that, once they balance their books, they'll find out, won't they?
Yep, indeed. And let's hope they haven't borrowed a lot of money from the bank to finance their business. And then they bank, because the problem with borrowing money from the bank, they always want the money back.
They do, with interest. They're not interested in you. They're just interested in making more money.
Okay, we've got some feedback from Lyle Kens, second time in the show.
Indeed. He says La Nina is a rough weather year.
Absolutely, and I responded, yes, indeed, it's been constant rain and wind here, and it seems like summer lasted for 3 weekends. Let's hope next year will be better, eh, Margaret?
Well, we had summer this weekend, didn't we?
We did. We had some summer.
And last weekend.
So maybe it's going to be a hot autumn.
Yeah, I think autumn's heating up and hopefully a good time. A bit of rain every now and again, a bit of drizzle. The bees will love that. So, let's see what the end of autumn brings, eh?
Yep. And what does Marie Bronton say?
She says, yep, wet, windy spring here and now drought. Can't win either way. It's raining now. Let's hope we get some nectar flow so they have stores for winter. No harvest for us this year. Oh, sorry to hear that, Marie.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah, no good.
And Barry Oliver from Australia says...
Yes, over here in Oz, it is the same. Last season, I took over 350 kilos out of my 5 hives. Holy moly.
Wow.
And this season, so far, only 50 kgs. Wow, that is huge difference.
Yeah, so it looks like the bee season's crap in Australia too, isn't it?
Yeah, well, when we talk to them at the end of the year before Christmas, a lot of them had already taken their honey off.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether that was a good production, but I did know that they had taken stuff off early. So maybe the different blooming times or flowering times made a difference in different areas.
Yes, absolutely.
So thanks, Lyle, Marie and Barry, for your comments and for taking time to do that. That's awesome.
That's awesome. And if you want to get involved in the commenting, you find our Facebook page at facebook.com/KiwiManaBuzz. And the next article, 5 must-see documentaries about honeybees.
Oh, yeah.
some of our favourite documentaries are here. A lot of them are on YouTube now, because we saw a couple on YouTube.
Definitely.
We recently watched The Last Beekeeper, which isn't the most happy story, is it?
No, I think some of these movies are really trying to make people aware of what is actually going on in nature. And I know it's about beekeeping, but it's actually nature itself. It's across the board getting affected, and that's what really pulls at my heartstrings.
Yes, and what's the quote from the article?
Okay, it says, we noticed there was not enough quality apiculture resource banks on the net. The lack of awareness around colony collapse disorder and the plight of the honeybee is startling. Here's our list of 5 of the best honeybee documentaries we found out there. Hope everyone enjoys watching them as much as we did. Do feel free to leave comments.
Well, I don't know about they were interesting, but I don't know. Some of them were quite sad. Well, the first one was More Than Honey. That was a great one, eh? We went to the RT movies to see that, didn't we?
Yeah, that made me cry.
Yeah, no, that's not happy.
So, it made me cry, especially about the older apiary.
Yes.
Anyway, you have to see it to know what I'm talking about, guys. That's a bit of a teaser there on that one.
And the next one was Queen of the Sun. What are the bees telling us? We saw that at a Green Party thing, didn't we? Remember that? Ages ago?
Yeah, and they like to eat honey off... What was that girl doing? She was like a statue.
Oh, you mean they were like... There was a lady dancing in like a bikini, eh? And they were like having bees on her.
She was covered in bees, so you got to see that, guys.
It was interesting, wasn't it? And that guy that was using his beard as a brush, that was funny. There
was some really interesting things on that one. Yeah,
it's a good movie. And the next one was Vanishing of the Bees. That was, that was a good one. I remember that one. It's a long time ago since I've seen that. The next one was Who Killed the Honeybees, and that was kind of more of a article from the BBC, wasn't it? It was like a documentary.
Yeah, it was more of a documentary, and they interviewed a whole lot of people that we've seen on More Than Honey,
all the other movies,
and everything else. Yeah, so it actually did make me feel quite sad, and but you guys have to have a look and see what you think. We'd love to hear your comments. And what was the last one, Gary?
The last one, appropriately, was The Last Beekeeper. That was the recent one we watched. Remember they had followed 3 different beekeepers when they were taking their bees to the almonds in California.
Yeah. They were the last beekeepers that were still able to do their business, eh?
Yeah, and it was one of them at the end, eh? He was suffering, and he wasn't sure if he'd be back next year because all his bees were dying. And I think this is at the height of the CCD issues in America.
Yeah, 2008's a pretty telling time, and we didn't come into beekeeping until about 2009, eh? So we've been really 8 seasons in, so yeah, that was kind of happening then in the peak of America and that kind of thing, and over in Europe. So I think a lot of things have changed. It's now 2017, so a lot of this stuff is pretty old now, eh, really? Yeah,
it is. Absolutely, but that Last Beekeeper, we found that on YouTube, so you can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, it was really I don't know, thought-provoking, and a bit sad too.
I wonder if that guy that was almost bankrupt, I wonder if he's still around. We should try and get him on the show.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, that's the 5 must-see documentaries, and we had some feedback from Anthony McGee. Sorry, Anthony. And what did he say?
He says, I have all 5 great but disturbing. I agree, Anthony. I do think they are disturbing.
Okay. Yes, I agree. I think they're very disturbing. Questions from you.
Yeah, over the last month we've had lots of questions about treatments and calls from beginner beekeepers, and he was so pleased to get our newsletter where he learned about Varroa. So, Varroa is something that every beekeeper has to get themselves educated on. And so he learnt about Varroa through the newsletter, and that he needed to treat and he needed to do it regularly. Yeah, so that was awesome. And the other thing he said he learnt from that was that about monitoring, about checking the hives and making sure they're not overrun with varroa, and just making sure that the cell health was, right. So I'm very pleased that came through, and that was in our last newsletter. So it's awesome that we can help, and another colony is saved.
Yes, absolutely. News is getting very popular. Right? It's awesome.
Absolutely, and thanks, guys. So what's next?
Well, we've got some questions. We've got a question from Jackie in Victoria in Australia, and she asked, how many mm's is a 3/4 depth honey super? So
Okay.
I'm guessing she means the height, because all the other dimensions, Jackie, are the same. So the height of a 3/4 is 185 millimetres. And if you get the Practical Beekeeping Guide in New Zealand, you've got all the dimensions. And it's
Fantastic.
a great, check that out on our webpage.
Very practical.
And even though you're in Australia, I'm sure you'll get some good use out of it.
Yes, very practical.
And very practical. It's a good book. Anyway, and the next one is from Max in Vermont. It's up. Oh, they must be cold up there. How a queen castle works?
That's a good question, and Gary built one quite some time ago.
Yes.
But we've never done any queen work with it, have we?
No. No, what I did is I got a full-size super, and I split it into 4 different sections, and each section could hold about 2 full-size frames, and each section had its own entrance. So you can basically put like a new queen in one part, and then when she starts laying, you move them into a nuke. But we haven't really tried it, have we? Not yet.
No, you also had little hive mats for each section so that the bees wouldn't, go into each section. So, it's a good idea, but I think that maybe if you used it, we could give more information on that one.
Yes, it's hard to raise queens, but when you're doing 2 jobs. Anyway.
It's just interesting that...
Maybe you could use it.
Well, I could try. We're probably looking at a bit more of that next year.
Yes, more next show about that. Anyway, the next question is how is honey made from flower nectar? And that's from Anders in Scanland, Sweden. Hey, Sweden. There's another feedback from Sweden later on too.
Yeah, awesome.
But check out Laura's article we mentioned at the beginning. It's all about that. So you could be able to find that out.
So lots of information on there about that.
Yes, and if you've got any questions, send us an email at info@kiwimana.co.nz and we will try and answer it. And if you want it read out on the podcast, make the subject banana.
Banana.
Or you can leave a message on SpeakPipe. On the side of our webpage is a little orange thing that says SpeakPipe. You can leave a voice message. We got one voice message this month, but it was about do the frames come in packs of 1 or 20? Something like that. But I rang her and told her.
Oh, okay. So that's cool, and that's on their homepage, eh?
It's on every page.
Every page. Well, there you go, guys. So speak to us.
Absolutely. Random review. This is where we randomly review one product every month, and the winner can claim a $30 Kiwi Mana gift voucher. Yes,
this is something that we do as a thank you, to our customers who've bought products off us on our online shop. And, the winner will receive a $30 Kiwi Mana gift certificate.
Yes, absolutely. So get in touch within 2 weeks of this podcast release date to claim your prize.
Awesome. So roll it, Gary.
The winning number is
2.
And who is 2?
That wasn't rolling a dice. That was almost irritating immediately.
That's good. It's a random computer thing. Okay, the number 2 was from Tracy Robinson.
Oh, I know who she is.
Oh, I do too. Outstanding service from Kiwi Mana as always. I've lost count the number of frames we have purchased, but highly recommend them. top quality from very nice people. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Tracy.
Shucks, that's awesome. Thanks, Tracy. And ditto, eh?
Yep, and get in touch within 2 weeks, Tracy, and for your $30 gift voucher.
Wonderful. That's great. Congratulations.
Okay, now we've got feedback from you guys. First up, the Twitters.
The Twitters from all your tweets.
And I asked John and Janine from Huntington, Indiana, and they're at Tulip Tree Honey. I said, ask them what they liked about our show, and they said, your delightful accents. Actually, we love getting tips from the opposite New Zealand seasons. It helps us plan our season. Oh, that's awesome, isn't it?
That's cool because, that's awesome because, well, it's just awesome.
And we don't have an accent, by the way.
Oh, no, it's all right. She said that we had good accents, so delightful.
Oh, that's okay then. Okay, and we were mentioned on the Guy and Harley podcast, a filmmaking podcast from New Zealand. And these guys are independent filmmakers, and they made a zombie film, didn't they?
Yes, it was interesting, to say the least.
I thought it was hilarious. Anyway, they've got a podcast as well. They mentioned us. And if you're into zombies, check out facebook.com/ISAZH and you can buy a copy. But I think it's actually been shown in various, cable networks in America.
Okay, it's called I Survived a Zombie Holocaust.
Holocaust? Yep, that's right. And they mentioned us on episode 93. We'll play this and see if you like it. Wait a minute.
Now, I also wanted to shout out Gary Fawcett. He runs New Zealand's only beekeeping podcast.
Quite interesting. Is this the bee guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Just to correct that, Margaret also runs the KM103 podcast.
Did he come round to pick up something one time? Was he in older?
No. You're thinking of William Titford, who is a beekeeper.
Oh, okay.
But he's not a podcaster.
Right.
No, so Gary Fawcett is a podcaster. He does a beekeeping podcast called the Kiwi Mana Buzz, and it is New Zealand's highest rating beekeeping podcast.
I love the qualifier of that.
What's that?
The highest rating and only beekeeper podcast. We say that all the time about our stuff as well. We just find a way to word it where we're the most popular because we're the only. I remember, were we doing like a joke?
Yeah.
Stop. They do go on, man.
They go on. No, they're good. They're funny.
They do go on.
They have a good podcast, but it is explicit. So beware, there's swear words in there. And we got some feedback from Pedro Bloom on the Facebooks, and he's actually from Ostensund in Jamland, and it's in the middle of Sweden.
It's Östersund in Jamland.
Yep, in the middle of Sweden.
Middle of Sweden. Sorry, okay. Pedro, but that's the best I could do.
And he says he enjoys listening to every episode of our podcast. And I thanked him for listening to the podcast. And he says, and I asked him, is the weather must make beekeeping difficult? And he goes, well...
Not really. Where I live, we have good biodiversity and big honey crops. And we don't have varroa yet. Oh, lucky you guys. That's awesome. Though it is starting to come really close now. I guess it's just a matter of time. And since I started beekeeping, I haven't had any winter losses except for a top bar hive that overturned in strong winds and the frames scattered in the snow. One thing that can make it difficult is that the season is very compressed. Everything happens really quick and then it's over. You have to be alert to be on top of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, that's amazing. He's had no losses from winter, eh?
That's
being in Sweden.
Yeah.
It must be those black bees they've got.
Yeah, he says that in this region we have the Nordic black bee. It's very well adapted to the climate and long winters. So that's awesome. Thanks, Pedro, for your feedback and sharing some of your experiences in Sweden.
Absolutely. You'll have to get in touch. We'll have to have you on the show there, Pedro. It'll be interesting to talk to you.
Absolutely.
And we've got a mission for you this month, everybody out there.
Okay, what is it, Gary? What have you got?
Can everybody tell one friend about us? Tell them about our podcast. Burn us onto a CD. Give them to a friend who is a beekeeper. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
That'd be awesome. Share us. Share us with a friend, guys.
Would be fantastic.
You know, we love to be shared. And, you know, the awesome thing about all of this is you guys. You make this worth it. Absolutely. We love having your feedback, and we think it's fantastic. Hey? And we get messages from all over the world, and it's really great. And we respond to most of them, don't we? We try our best. Yeah, we've only got about 260 emails that we have to respond to, so, but bear with us, guys. Every month we really do try our best to get through them, so we will be responding. Just give us a chance. Just hang in there, and if it's something urgent, give us a call. But remember, New Zealand times. Yeah, so thanks for being here with us, and thanks for sharing us with a friend, and... Yes, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. We have an interview with Michael Jordan, all about swarm catching, which is going to be very applicable to the Northern Hemisphere very soon. Yeah, fantastic. And you guys will be also getting all your split gear done. So, awesome. Yep, and see you later, guys. See ya.